Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good morning, good evening. I know we have people joining us in South Asia as well as here in Cambridge. I'm Hitesh Hathi with the Mittal Institute. Jinah, Kim, and I are joining you from a very cold, dreary, rainy autumn day in Cambridge. There is almost no sun outside, or in fact, none at all. I'm very honored and delighted to be in this presence of this extraordinary group and to welcome all of you who are listening to us. We are going to talk about mapping color in history, but I want to start by just introducing you briefly for those of you who don't know to the Mittal Institute. The Mittal Institute has a singular mission, which is to connect Harvard and South Asia. And we do that through a very wide range of research on a multiple set of topics, everything from medicine to climate change to the arts, the study of ancient manuscripts to modern day marketplaces in South Asia. We are also dedicated to transcending borders, not just in South Asia, but also within the university. We work across every department and every school at Harvard University, from the medical school, dental school, law school, to the Faculty of Arts and Sciences. And for those of you who don't know us, please sign up to our newsletter, join us for our activities. We'd love to welcome you. So I know we have very limited time. I don't want to take up too much time. I want to pass the baton to Jinah Kim. But let me just say that one of the projects that Jinah has brought us is this mapping color and history, which is an innovative look that combines science, sociology, and a wide variety of fields into art history to show something not just about South Asia, but its place in connection with the world. So it's really wonderful to be here. I'll just give a brief introduction to Jinah Kim because a full introduction of all of her merits would take the rest of the hour. She is a really good friend, one of our most cherished colleagues. She is a professor of Indian and South Asian art here at Harvard University. She is the director of our arts program. Her research is wide-ranging. It includes intertextuality of text and image relationship. Her work on manuscripts has changed the way we think of manuscripts and what they do in the Indic tradition and the place they have. Representations of the female, patronage, issues regarding the reappropriation of sacred images in South Asia. And she has a series of books. I'll just mention a couple of them. Receptacle of the Sacred, Illustrated Manuscripts and the Buddhist Book Cult in South Asia. Garland of Visions, Color Tantra and a Material History of Indian Painting. I could go on with several others, but I want to save our time. Jinah, please take us forward. I'm going to go off camera, not because I'm not here, because I will return in the end. It's just that I want the focus to be on those who are speaking. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I am delighted to be presenting our sort of latest on the Mapping Color and History project to you all today. And thank you, Hitesh, for that nice introduction. And so today's format is going to be that I will sort of introduce the project and we'll sort of talk briefly about what we've been up to, and then followed by a demo of some of the features, and then we'll have a little bit of scavenger hunt. So there will be a little interactive moment that will be led by Vaishnavi Patil. So before I actually share my screen, I want to acknowledge some of our MCH team members that are with us today. So I'm just going to go on the Brady Bunch order on my screen, the Zoom screen. So Anjali Jain is our MCH India research manager, who's like single-handedly taking care of everything on the ground in India. So thank you. Along with, actually, I should step back and say thank you to the Mittal Institute Delhi office for organizing and like dealing with me being so delinquent with everything. So thank you. And Anjali is like our hero who comes through day to day. So thank you. And we also have Ren Chapers, who's MCH project coordinator, and she's our gentle, liaison to everything. So thank you. And I see Nandita Punj, our longtime research assistant, who's also a postdoctoral fellow at the Arizona State University. And I see Vaishnavi Patil, who will actually lead our scavenger hunt, who's a PhD candidate in History of Art and Architecture department here at Harvard University. And Victoria Andrews, also a PhD candidate in our department at Harvard. And both of them are my students working on various aspects of South Asian art, I would say. And I also see Isabel Williams, also a PhD candidate in Chinese art, actually, in our department, and helping us with especially East Asian objects that actually enter our database. And I also see John Weaver, who's one of the youngest members of our research assistant team, the Harvard College 26, so you're junior, I guess, and joined the team this year and has been already like leaving marks in the project. And I see Tracy Stuber, Dr. Stuber, who was a NEH MCH postdoctoral, digital humanities postdoctoral fellow, and now is a digital humanities specialist in the Arts and Humanities Computing team of Harvard University, our university. And so thank you. And Tracy will be leading sort of demo and also showing sort of how we can harness the data for a digital sort of humanistic research, digital data for humanistic research. And I also see Ryan Mutter, who is a software engineer in the Arts and Humanities research computing team. And again, somebody who actually does like behind the scene work. What you see on the front is not possible without Ryan and the team at Arts and Humanities Research Computing. And I see Cole Crawford, who's been with this project from the very beginning, I have to say. One of the heroes of this project that actually I think have made this possible all the way. So he's a big presence for us, at least, to along with Rashmi Singhal, who's a project technology co-director and also director of the Arts and Humanities Research Computing. And last but not least, I see Michelle Derrick, our scientist, MCH scientist. She retired from her scientist position at the Museum of Fine Arts Boston and has been our scientist consulting and interpreting the data for us. So I'm just mentioning them now so I can, so you have seen some of our team members on the screen. So welcome all and thank you for all your contributions. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see. Can you see my screen? Yes, someone? All right. Okay, something happened. Let me redo that. All right, something happened. That's just my bad. What happened to it? Now, this is not good. Where did the file go to? We closed the screen and it all disappeared. Ah, apologies. Okay, let's try one more time. Should have done a little bit of practice run. Okay, here we go. Hopefully this works. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we're here to talk about Mapping Color in History project. And it is a digital humanities project. I started to document the published and ongoing pigment research and sort of meteorological institutions to create a searchable database. Now we are really transforming it into a publicly available interdisciplinary research platform. And one of the things that I want to sort of highlight is today, what we're going to show is like version 1.5 of our interface that our research humanities computing, arts and humanities research computing team has been working tirelessly along with Tracy Stuber to develop in the back end. So it used to look like this, right? And what you're going to see today is going to be a lot more interactive, and so we'll do some demo. But before sort of going to the demo and everything, I just wanted to give a brief genesis of the project. And if you have heard me speaking about this project, you heard about this before. So this actually all started with the Garland of Visions book. I've always been interested in the material history of painting. I love materiality of paint and painting. And I really got to I mean, wherever I go in museum settings or even like archaeological settings, I always seek to speak to scientists or conservators to discuss sort of material conditions of objects or even sites. And that led me to really talk to a lot of people. And that's where we actually got to start really collaborating together to find out more about what's on these surfaces. So that beautiful cover image of this painting that's now in Museum of Fine Arts Boston, we actually have the data on this object that we know that white pearls on Bhairava's body is actually white lead, or this like silver and gold and the vermilion red lead that has been used to make these surfaces as you see, or even that snake actually has a white lead white underneath with a silver over. So these things are being sort of discovered partly because I'm very interested in the material practices and got to talk to a lot of scientists. And also, it's only possible here almost that I'm very lucky to have two great museological institutions, Harvard Art Museums and Museum of Fine Arts Boston, both of which are incredible resources, especially in terms of Indian painting collection, and then also the scientific labs. Both of them have an amazing research lab. So it's through working with scientists and conservators that I really got to be introduced, indoctrinated into really thinking about the valleys and the peaks of this painted surfaces. So you just get mesmerized by the surface that looks so flat at the first encounter. So, and MCH is a huge interdisciplinary collaborative project. I describe this always as a three-legged stool, and all three legs must be equally strong for it to function, optimally. And so these are sort of three legs of this project, and this is our like team of people that are not on screen and they're, I'm hoping, watching and sort of being taking the credit. So you have scientists, conservators, and research assistants in various disciplines that work on the project. And so from conservation science to digital data or data management, and we have an advisory board who actually advises us on how to go about working with different institutions and even conservation strategies when we need to provide advice on to institutions on these objects that we get to analyze, especially in India. I will mention this project momentarily, the MCH India project momentarily. So the types of data that are captured on the MCH database, there are the two broad types, art historical and conservation science data. And if you, especially for South Asian or Indian material, you all know that if you look at any sort of random object from like 17th, 18th, 19th century, you often will have something that is like, we don't know where it was made exactly or when it was made exactly. So something like 17th, 18th century North India, and you cannot map 17th, 18th century North India. You really do need better historical, chronological, and sort of geographical understanding of objects' context. So that's what art historical research is that we do to really try to narrow down the place and time of each object that we get data for. And the data, as at the beginning I mentioned, the conservation science data that comes through, it's we do actually include the published data. The analytical studies that have been published in journals and publications are included, but we also have freshly commissioned studies that are kind of done with our template and controlled vocabularies and consistent systems, so to meet our database requirements. So these are two types of data. And of course, this is harnessed through the digital humanities tool, database and online research platform. And just before going to ask Tracy to show us some of the things that we can do with the digital data, I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the ongoing research project that we are currently doing. One is a material color versus computer vision research that Eric Zhou, one of our research assistant, is leading the charge of. And so we're thinking about sort of what we are finding in the pigment research and actually what is visible through the digital images and what we can sort of find in doing the comparison. And that's one of the studies that we're pursuing. And another sort of project we're doing is with the sort of same type of data, but differently, is really more art historical. And here you see a grid, a beautiful grid that was created by John Weaver, one of the research assistants that you saw this morning, and he was on the call. And so this is sort of type of the art historical and digital humanities research that we do, that it's ongoing and will come out as publications down the road. And we will have the second session that's coming up on Friday will also feature some of the ongoing researches that will come out as publications. So stay tuned for that. And I'm going to sort of hand it over to Tracy to tell us a little bit more about our sort of, what we can do with the data that we have compiled. Yeah, Tracy.
Thanks, Jinah. So as Jinah mentioned, the site that we'll be demoing today is kind of Mapping Color and History version 1.5. And that 0.5 is the product, also as she mentioned, of a lot of hard work of our software engineering team with Harvard Arts and Humanities Research Computing. And in particular, some of the work that we've been doing over the last year and a half has been kind of remodeling certain aspects of our data, especially how pigments are organized and how dates are represented, so that we can get a kind of more accurate representation of the data kind of from a zoomed out view. So what I'm going to talk about right now is sort of what the database consists of in the aggregate. So as of now, we currently have 59 pigments that are represented in our data, and this is in 153 analyses. So when we look at the site, you'll see about half of the works on the site have a published analysis. Across those analyses, we have over 5,000 pigment occurrences. And what I mean by a pigment occurrence is a time that a pigment is detected within a visible color. So you're seeing here a screenshot from one of the analyses on the site, where the visible color is white and there's a pigment occurrence of lead white within that visible color white. And it's often, or at least sometimes the case, that there will be more than one pigment within a visible color. So looking at this data, I guess, Jinah, next slide, please. Visualizing this data in the aggregate, we can get a sense of the distribution of visible colors within the database. There's a preponderance of kind of green, blue, and red. And then the secondary and kind of metallic or neutral colors are not as well represented. And then you can also see kind of how these split out into different pigments. And I think that looking at our data in this zoomed out way is very useful because we can use it as a guide for kind of future analyses that we may do with the conservation scientists. We may choose, for example, to look at more cases of visible colors, green, blue, and red, so that we have more data for comparison. Or we might say, oh, well, there isn't a lot of purple represented. So if there's a work where we see purple as a visible color, that's more of a motivation, perhaps, to test that pigment. Next slide, Jinah. So I've been working with Jinah on some data visualizations, kind of looking at specific subsets of our data. So what you're seeing here is the breakdown of visible colors and pigments in artworks created between 1450 and 1550. On the left are artworks in our database from South Asia, and on the right are artworks in our database from West Asia. So Jinah and I both thought that a particularly interesting aspect of this was looking at green. And you'll see, even just looking at that green bar in the middle, that in South Asia, indigo and orpiment are very well represented. Whereas in West Asia, there's a much wider variety of pigments that are being used to create the color green. And if we look kind of at that breakdown on the next slide, we can sort of see this in more detail, right? That not only do we see in South Asia that indigo and orpiment are kind of highly represented, we also see both indigo and orpiment being used to create green in the same artwork. So you see that kind of in that repeated pattern of artworks. And what that suggests is that in these works, indigo and orpiment are being combined to create the visible color green. By comparison, in West Asia, we see more pigments that are themselves green in visible color, so pigments such as malachite or atacamite. And so between these two kind of different regions, even in the same time period, we get a sense of the trends of how visible colors are being produced in different material ways.
Right. Well, thank you, Tracy. And along with that, so before going to the site demo that which Tracy will lead, I wanted to kind of tell you a little bit more about the MCH India part of the project. So if I can forward my slide. So now you sort of see this three-legged stool with all the kind of institutions that we're working with. It's a hugely collaborative project. And as I mentioned earlier, and we did actually get to we started MCH India project with sort of Tata Trust Grant, and we did sort of start with the CSMVS, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Vastu Sangrahalaya in Mumbai, and then we were able to pursue a historic collaboration with the Asiatic Society Mumbai, where I had done research in the past on the art of Indic manuscripts, and it's just the managing committee. I really appreciate the support of the managing committee of the Asiatic Society Mumbai for allowing us to bring our mobile heritage lab, that I will sort of explain momentarily what that is, and actually do on-site research. And I am delighted, and that sort of the result of this is this research will be coming out as different publications and presentations down the road. And for now, I'm actually also delighted to announce that we just signed an MOU and will be starting the new work of collaborating as part of MCH India project that with Maharaja Man Singh II Museum in Jaipur City Palace. Well, we are going to work with the MS2 Second Museum, Jaipur City Palace, to do this collaborative research. So stay tuned for more news on this. Again, another historic collaboration. So just before moving on to the site demo, I kind of wanted to show you this something about the Mobile Heritage Lab that we have established in 2021 with the Tata Trust and Lakshmi Mittal South Asia Institute grant. And then we do have these core equipment that are used on-site setting. And these are and we chose equipment that it can be used in low resource settings. And we do borrow the X-ray fluorescent spectrometer for analysis. And so this is sort of the on-site scene of research setup that Anjali Jain has been doing at MCH India project, Mobile Heritage Lab at the Asiatic Society. And one of the things that one can do with multispectral imaging is find things that you just cannot see in just visible light. For instance, you do see on the left, you can see completely blue in that middle panel, but see how it's sort of blank, and that would actually indicate that is actually indigo. Indigo disappears in the reflected IR. And in this figure, you would think that scarp is just done in one go, but you realize in reflected IR that the artist probably did not actually have it done quite correctly, so they added that black. So at first glance, you don't actually see these kind of mistakes. So reflected IR can also show something of a mistake and corrections that artists make. And this is sort of how we go about kind of identifying the data points. And this is work in progress, but all the data that we're recording that is commission study by MCH is going to have this point that where the data is coming from. And we're developing annotation tool that ultimately you will know where each piece of pigment data is from on the surface. And along with that, I think one of the most sort of helpful thing I think we have developed is the reporting template, how you record the analysis data. And these are also printable format that you can, and where if any institution wants to use this for their own safe data recording and keeping, we're happy to share the templates with you. So do reach out. And I think that's sort of about an MCH India project, and I'm gonna hand it over to Tracy to do some site demo. Yeah. Should we
Hopefully
start?
all these.
Okay.
Yeah, so hopefully all the videos work. But so what you're seeing here is the homepage of the website, and it's gonna go a little fast. And some ways that you can initially browse our data. The first is browsing by pigments. And clicking any of these pigments will take you to a search interface that's been filtered based on that pigment. You can also browse by visible color, and this is our controlled vocabulary for visible colors. And then finally, there is the option to browse by element. And so clicking on one of these, I think I click on one, not such as zinc, will then take you to our search interface filtered to show objects where zinc has been detected. So this search interface that you're seeing here is really the visible evidence of MCH 1.5. One of the great things about it is that it's a lot faster. So you can really see your selections of filters update dynamically. You're seeing here that we've added these options to filter on objects that have an image and objects that have a published analysis. And then we also have a timeline that allows you to look at a specific subset of time or time period and the objects that are in the database for that period. Then looking here on the left at our artwork facets, we have a century facet that gives you kind of an overview of the distribution over time of objects in your search results. So here, you can combine this with what I'll show in a second, which are the analysis things. So we're looking at pigments for orpiment right now. And then sorry, I'm not quite up to speed with it. Yeah, so as I said, pigments such as orpiment is part of our analysis facets. So under each object, you see that there is an indication of whether there's an analysis. So here we're looking just at objects that have analyses. We can take a look at objects that have indigo. And then when we add another pigment, that will show us objects that have either indigo or gold. And then those can be combined with elements, visible colors, analysis methodologies, as well as analysts. So if you're looking for a particular study, you can see kind of the source of the data that's on the site. And so the way it's broken down is.
Should we do should I wait or should
Yeah,
I?
can you wait? Sorry, they're
Okay.
set to go automatically.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, just to say, filters are broken down by artwork and analysis, but you're able to combine filters from across these two aspects. And so, okay, you can go to the next one, Jinah.
Okay, and may I comment that the speed in which the search function works is like, I was telling Cole like, oh my God, this is faster than like, Google search speed. So I was so thrilled, and this is really the result of hard work. So thank you to the team again.
Yeah, and I think an area where that speed really shines is in our map view. So again, we can look at orpiment, and in addition to the thumbnail view, we can have this map view, and we can see the distribution over time. But then using the timeline, we can kind of dynamically move and watch the spread of orpiment as we go through the timeline. So what you're seeing now is me kind of like paging through the timeline, and you're seeing the spread of that particular pigment in the database. So I think being able to kind of see that happen very quickly, and to see the different filters that you add update almost immediately really enhances the research capability of the site. I've been focusing on filters, but of course we also have a keyword search bar. In this bar, you can search for a specific work by title. You can also just search for a keyword. So if you want to see works that have Krishna in the title, you can do that. The search bar also allows you to search for things that are in the filter list. So you can search for orpiment instead of going down to the filter. And the results you see here are the same. And you can search for a session number. So these have been really useful additions to the site. Also from the kind of administrative perspective, that allows us to find the specific objects we're looking for very quickly. There's also, you want to go, Jinah?
No. Go ahead. Like, this is a fun part.
Okay, so this is kind of an example of advanced search, which by that I mean kind of combining filters and the search bar. So here we're seeing lead white and tin white, and as I mentioned, what that's showing us is objects that contain either lead white or tin white. But instead, what we can also do is put lead white into the search bar and keep that tin white filter. And here we're only getting 7 results. And the reason that's much smaller is because what this is showing us is objects that have both lead white and tin white. And then we can, for example, see that viewed on the map. So I think being able to see kind of analyses in that more granular way is another really exciting aspect of the new search interface.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is worth coming to the demo for, because this, I think, is not obvious that you can do that on the website yet. So maybe we'll find a way to explain it better on the website as like a tutorial.
I think one of the plans is to have a kind of advanced search tips that we'll be adding. So, when we do the scavenger hunt, and then later in the Q&A, or as you work with the site, even after the webinar, any feedback about, searches that you'd like to be able to do that would help your research, things that you want to know if it's possible to do on the site, but you're not exactly sure. We really welcome that feedback, because that'll help us make the site even more usable and valuable for our historical research.
Yeah, and I will also say that, digital project, we can always recall and edit the data if you find anything that, I mean, there are constantly things to fix. So, and I'm like, every time, like, who entered this data? And we need to fix this. Or like, oh, there is new research, we need to update it. So, so that's more dynamic in that way than just a publication. So. anyways, sorry, wait.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, what you're seeing here is the view of a particular object page. So we've been focusing on the search results page, but this is the way that the analysis and artwork information is displayed. And I think, that template that we just saw, that Jinah showed of how the analysis data is captured, then is transferred into this website display of the analysis. And I think you can kind of see that process in the way that it's visualized. And just some other aspects of the site where that art historical research really comes into play, having references, having related works that are all kind of captured in the relationships of the object, so that if you find one thing that's interesting, maybe you're looking at one page of a manuscript and then you see, oh, there's other pages from this manuscript in the database, and you can compare the analyses and see if maybe colors are being made with the same pigments or different pigments. So we're really trying to kind of capture all of that art historical research that goes into creating the database and make it available to users as well. Finally, some other kind of resource pages that are on the site. There's a methodologies glossary that says more about the different methodologies of conservation analysis that the site features. There's a page that's kind of about our process, and this is largely about kind of how we've come to the controlled vocabularies for things like color and pigment on the site, because things like color, of course, are so subjective, but when you're turning it into data, you have to figure out some way to represent it. And finally, again, to that art historical research, we have an extensive bibliography that the research assistants on the project have compiled that provides more context for the objects on the site.
All right, so I think this ends our sort of presentation portion, and I think we're gonna turn to Vaishnavi to lead us to the scavenger hunt and the sort of having fun with the site.
Yes, thank you so much, Tracy, for sharing all of the details of the website and how to use it. I'm sure everybody's really excited to use the website themselves. So we do have a few questions for you to explore by yourself on the website live, and then we'll have a second part where you'll get a chance to explore more complex questions by yourself. So in the chat, you will find two links. One to the Mapping Color and History website, which I request you to open on Google Chrome or Safari or any of the browsers that you're using today. And a second link to a form on the Mentimeter website. And that will be the form that you use to answer the questions. I will be sharing my screen and we will run the quiz or the scavenger hunt live. So I hope that you can connect to both of these platforms, the website where you will test out some of the features that we just discussed, and the Mentimeter form where you can answer the questions that we want you to look at. There are two ways to connect to the Mentimeter form as well. You can use the link in the chat that we have shared, or if you want to use your phone, you can also scan the QR code, which is currently on screen. And I hope everybody can see the first slide. And I will wait a few seconds for everybody to sign in.
So Vaishnavi, is that, so when you go to that, I just did it on my phone and it's actually just scavenger hunt and an empty screen. Is that the
Yes,
correct
yeah.
page? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the first question. I hope everybody can see the question. Search the keyword Krishna. How many paintings appear? Please use the Mapping Color and History website to answer the question on the Mentimeter form. So we're getting a few hits. Oh, everybody seems to be sticking to one answer. So one of the ways to do this will be to type in Krishna, that in the search bar. That's the easiest way to get to this answer. A few more seconds for everybody. Okay, I think everybody's on to the correct answer, which is 39, sorry, 28 respondents for the correct answer, 39. The way to do this was to search Krishna in the search bar. Next question now is, how many paintings in the database belong to the 18th century? And I would request all of you to remove Krishna from the search bar before you begin. So that the search options are filtered and are reset, and then you will be able to search all of the folios that exist. And we have some answers. I think the best way to do this is to use the advanced search option on the left-hand side of the screen if you're using your laptop, at the very top if you're using your phone, and use the option for century. That will offer you a list of different centuries. And then if you select 18th century, you will get all of the paintings listed that belong during this time period. And we have a few answers. I will wait for a few more seconds if anybody wants to take their time. Okay, and the correct answer is 43, 21 respondents for this one. Let's move on to the next one. How many paintings from the repository Harvard Art Museums are in the database? I request again to reset all of the filters that you have used before. The best way would be to use the advanced search options on the left-hand side of the screen. In the option for repositories, you'll find all of the institutions, museums that have contributed to the project, and you'll be able to find Harvard Art Museums listed there as well. And through that, can get the most amount of hits for paintings from the collections. And the correct answer is 144. If you were not able to find the right answer, please put your questions in the chat. We'll be happy to answer during Q&A. Another question that I would like you all to look at is how many works contain the pigment Indian yellow? And again, reset all filters. For this as well, I would like you all to see the analysis facets and the advanced search options. In the list is pigments, and through that you will be able to find Indian yellow along with all of the other pigments that have been discovered in the paintings that have been analyzed.
And if you were to actually search on the keyword search bar, I think you need to put quotation mark between Indian yellow, like with the Indian yellow as a full name. Otherwise, it will pull things that have like Indian in the somewhere. So one needs to do quotation marks if you were to do keyword search.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a few answers. Let's see what's the right one. Okay, 62 was the right answer. Those who weren't able to find the exact number, please put your questions in the chat. Another question that I had was, how many paintings contain the element mercury? And again, I would encourage you to reset all of the filters.
it seems being an artist in pre-modern South Asia might have been quite hazardous for a painter.
Absolutely. Okay, we are getting some answers. And it seems like everybody has been able to, they're all agreeing, except for one person. We'll see what the correct answer is in just a short while. But I think one of the ways to do it would be to look at the advanced search options, but also perhaps add the quotations. And I feel like it's a process of using the website, testing out different ways that you are comfortable with to find the most number of paintings. And the most number of paintings was 107 for this one. And if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A chat. And the last question in this live interactive scavenger hunt is, how many paintings were created between 1550 and 1700 and have the pigment vermilion in it? So there's two facets that you need to sort of use the filters for. One of the ways to accurately sort of find the date range from 1550 to 1700 would be to use the time scale, the time range scale that is at the top of the search options, right below the search bar, and then also select vermilion within the pigment list in the advanced search options. And both those filters together should be able to give you the exact number of paintings that have both that are within this particular time frame and also have vermilion pigment used. Okay. We have a good number of answers. Maybe a few more seconds for this last question. And the correct answer was 42. Thank you so much for joining us to do this. And we all look forward to your questions about the website. But we also encourage you to keep playing our scavenger hunt. There will be a link in the chat with a Google form, a Google form that you could fill out right now, or one that you could do at your leisure using the website. So feel free to start working on the Google form, but we also open up for questions. So please add your questions to the chat. We look forward to hearing from you.
So what I think we're gonna give actually online maybe a couple of minutes for people to fill out the start doing the scavenger hunt right now. So maybe just take a if it's a Jeopardy game, there's da 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 the music playing, and maybe we'll have a little screen up if that's possible for just scavenger hunt time for maybe give like 3 minutes or so. And in the meantime, do put your questions to us in the Q&A box, and we'll try to get to them before the end of the session today. So
Okay, so I think we have a few questions in the chat, and I encourage all of you to keep adding them so that we can answer them live. So Chetan Pandey has asked two questions. When you refer to data, what exactly does it encompass in the context of XRF and Raman analysis? Additionally, is it possible to access the raw data upon request? He's also mentioned a few other questions. Since color perception is subjective, could you elaborate on the process of developing the glossary you used? Is it primarily technical, or does it also consider material and historical aspects? Also, while most of your samples seem to be from manuscripts and miniatures, will you be expanding it to other types of objects? Or are you focusing on these due to the richness of their data sets? He also thanks us for this project and says that it's an excellent project. Thank you, Chetan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful questions. And I think I would ask Michelle to sort of tell us a little bit more about the data in the context of XRF and Raman analysis, if she's still here. But I would say that the reason why we actually went for color, like it absolutely, if you look at the about page, we do start off with the color perception is very subjective. So we had to, we made kind of challenging choices in terms of choosing visible colors and completely almost like executive decisions. You needed to have control vocabulary for visible colors. And we have some challenges when it comes to especially skin colors that are depicted in the paintings, because, is it peachy yellow or like kind of, brownish white? We can't do that as to organize the data. So there are some challenging calls that we are making, but that's why we also put a caveat on it that this is kind of for the sake of having a placeholder to kind of organize the data. So that's one thing that I will also say it outright. And we do consider material and historical aspects when we're considering the technical terms that are used. But what's great about the digital project is actually we are able to hyperlink the data in a way that if we have one term for something, let's say one name for a pigment that are most commonly used, that was also executive decision of like which name is actually going to be forefronted. But we do now have developed sort of pigment hierarchy that can actually give us more nuance of where that pigment name falls. And also we're hoping to be able to sort of document local names and variant names to be associated with the pigment that we're identifying in the database. So database works when it's data, so criteria is applied consistently. So that's what's important to kind of highlight. And yes, we have started with manuscripts and small paintings, partly because there was dearth of sort of analytical data that that's known outside like small circles, and that was a place to begin. But we are hoping to expand to other types of data, and ultimately the database model and the platform, I'm hoping can be expanded to different types of data. So we do have tried with the ukiyo-e, for instance, that's a Japanese woodblock print, and we're considering how we might be able to enter mural data or even pigments on like objects, like decorative objects or furniture even. So that we're all considering, but so far it's been very focused on manuscripts and miniatures. And Michelle, can you sort of tell us a little bit about what data encompasses in the context of XRF and Raman analysis?
Yes, so XRF analysis is pretty much a technique that is available in a lot of different labs. However, it only gives us elemental information on a compound. So if we're analyzing a red area that has mercury in it, we're almost 99.9% positive that means vermilion's there. But if we are analyzing a white area that has calcium in it, we're not quite sure whether that's gypsum or calcite or another type of calcium white. So we tend to call it calcium white. That's why this pigment hierarchy that Jinah was talking about is so important for our analysis. Then if we can go to second and third and fourth analysis techniques like Raman analysis, we can actually get the crystalline structure of the white compound we're looking at. So we can tell for sure if it's absolutely calcite or another type of white. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, these are also spectral data that what Michelle is telling us. And yes, we, as long as the scientists and the institution agrees to share the data with researchers, we're happy to, upon request that can be. And we have discussed whether the raw data, that spectral data will live somewhere in our database, but currently it's not like visible on the database. And we're still sort of thinking about what we're going to do with how to share that type of raw data. So, anyways, and I think we answered a couple of questions. I don't know if we have time to answer more questions. Vaishnavi, what do you say?
I think two more questions. One question is about collection of data as well. For carbon black pigment, is there a way to determine whether the carbon pigment is wood-based or bone-based? And if so, is there a way to distinguish this on the site? And this is a question from Ariana Pemberton.
Oh, I know why Ariana's interested in wood and bone, but okay, Michelle, I think well, it's kind of hard to determine by just a look, and it is very, very difficult. I think you need a more advanced technology to actually get down to whether it's bone black or like soot ink. But Michelle, do you have something to add to that question?
It's I apologize for the dog. It's very difficult to tell the different types of black. XRF, we can't get light elements. Carbon is a light element. With microscopy, we can sometimes look at the shape of the particle. Wood, graphite from wood often has angular shapes, whereas soot from a candle will have very spherical shapes. Otherwise, there aren't a lot of analytical techniques that can help us. It's more of visible microscopy techniques.
Thank you.
And we have one last question, if we have a few minutes. It is, have you explored the meaning of these colors in the history and culture of the local community? And this is from Mohammad Iko Kursavati, and I'm adding the link to your book, Professor Kim, as a follow-up for this question, but if you would like to answer this.
No, I mean, that's like a great question. And of course, everyone wants to know that kind of meaning behind. And it's very varied, different times, different period. I mean, and culture to culture, it's community to community even, it's different. And the Garland of Visions, that book actually did sort of address, let's say, some parts of it in like pre-1500 and mostly like Buddhist context, but also like a lot of Indic religious context I have sort of investigated, but that doesn't mean that that's the single answer. That's the hard part about sort of this kind of meaning research, that trying to find just one single meaning that's a through line is not going to help us to really understand what these colors mean for each community that made and use them. On the other hand, what we can tell from doing this kind of sort of historical research is that even what we call as blue is going to be translated differently. And that's where art actually play a big role in helping us see how people saw that color blue of Krishna in that community in Himachal Pradesh versus in Rajasthan in like 18th century, let's say. So there is something to be said about like, oh, that community might have thought the Krishna's blue color was more kind of what we would describe as grayish sky color versus like, oh, they really saw it as this like, sort of more like a reflected watercolor. So you do see different ways that that people have been looking and imagining these colors through this type of study. So if somebody asks like, what does this color mean? And I can't give in India, like it's so many different ways that one can answer it. But yes, that is something that we're interested in and hope to continue to do research on. So thank you. And Hitesh, I see you're here to wrap us out.
So I just wanted to say that was fascinating. Thank you. And I was very skeptical that you could pull off an actual scavenger hunt, but you did. So, wonderful. Thank you all very much, Jinah, Vaishnavi. Thank you, all of you, and thank you to our audience also. And please join us again on Friday when we do round 2. Jinah, do you want to say anything more about round 2?
Yeah, round 2, we will actually do some, we will present some findings, actual research findings. So you will actually hear about the pigments that we have sample collected, because it's really important to have reference spectra for this type of study. So it was a huge collaboration that we did with a miniature painting artist in Jaipur, and I think he will be joining live, I'm hoping. And then it will have Harvard Museum's scientists, Celia Chari and Kathy Ehrman joining us to sort of share some of the findings that we have of these pigment collection, and also some of the just like really like a little small section of what we are finding. So we'll share that on Friday, so join us.
Thank you. And that shows exactly why we love working with Jinah. It's exactly the mission of Mittal Institute, artists and scientists together with a group of scholars and researchers. It's absolutely wonderful. Thank you all, and have a good evening, good day, and see you all on Friday.